We have another question. This question asks, which row identifies the organisms in a food chain? Remember the correct order of a food chain. It always begins with a producer, followed by a herbivore, and then a carnivore. Plants are producers because they make their own food by photosynthesis. Rabbits are herbivores because they feed on plants, and dogs are carnivores because they feed on other animals. So, D is the correct answer. The next question describes an experiment where students placed leaves in bags with different mesh sizes and measured the percentage loss in mass over 5 months. This question asks, what can the students conclude from these results? If you observe the results carefully, the bags with the largest mesh size consistently show the greatest loss in mass. Larger mesh sizes allow more decomposers, such as insects and other organisms, to reach the leaves, increasing the rate of decomposition. So, B is the correct answer because the larger the mesh size, the faster the rate of decay. We have another question. This question asks, populations of animals are affected by disease, numbers of predators and the supply of food. Which row would lead to the most growth in population size? For a population to increase, there should be less disease, fewer predators, and more food available. These conditions increase survival and reproduction. So, B is the correct answer. Moving on. Which human activity has caused most damage to tropical rainforests? The greatest damage to tropical rainforests has been caused by cutting down trees for industrial use, leading to large-scale deforestation, habitat destruction, and loss of biodiversity. So, C is the correct answer. Now, this question shows an energy pyramid for the food chain consisting of grass, grasshopper, and bluebird. In this food chain, the order of feeding is: the grass is eaten by the grasshopper, and the grasshopper is eaten by the bluebird. It asks you to calculate, to 1 decimal place, the percentage of energy transferred from the producer, which is the grass, to the herbivore, which is the grasshopper. To solve this, divide the energy stored in the herbivore by the energy stored in the producer and then multiply by 100. Using the values given, the percentage of energy transferred is approximately 21.8%. So, D is the correct answer. The next question asks, which statements about the carbon cycle are correct? Statement 1 is correct because burning wood and fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Statement 2 is incorrect because decay releases carbon dioxide rather than removing it, although photosynthesis does remove carbon dioxide. Statement 3 is also incorrect because photosynthesis removes carbon dioxide instead of adding it. So, B is the correct answer because only statement 1 is correct. We have another question. This question says, aphids are small insects that feed on plants by sucking fluids from plant cells. The population of aphids feeding on a bean plant increases rapidly. Which row shows a combination of factors that explains this rapid growth? A population grows rapidly when there is low competition and a high food supply. Under these conditions, more individuals survive and reproduce successfully. So, C is the correct answer. The final question asks, a lake has been polluted by sewage. How will the water in this lake compare with unpolluted water? When sewage enters a lake, it increases the amount of nutrients available, encouraging the growth of bacteria and raising nitrate levels. As the bacteria decompose organic matter, they use dissolved oxygen during respiration, causing oxygen levels in the water to decrease. So, B is the correct answer because there will be more bacteria, more nitrates, and less oxygen. Now let's move on to another paper 2 question. This question says, plastics are produced in very large amounts by industrial processes around the world. These plastics can enter ecosystems as pollution. The first question asks, the total mass of plastics produced globally in the year 2020 was 367 million tons. It is estimated that 3% of all plastics produced globally each year enters the ocean as plastic pollution. Calculate the total mass of plastic pollution that is estimated to have entered the ocean during the year 2020. This is a simple percentage calculation. We need to find 3% of 367 million tons. The working is 3 divided by 100 multiplied by 367 equals 11.01 million tons. So the answer we write is 11.01 million tons. The next question asks, some packaging is made from biodegradable carbohydrates. Microorganisms break down larger carbohydrate molecules into smaller molecules. Identify this process and name one type of microorganism that is involved. When microorganisms break down dead organic matter, the process is called decomposition. The microorganisms responsible can be bacteria or fungi. So the answer we write is biodegradable plastics are broken down by the process of decomposition, carried out by bacteria or fungi. The final question asks, most plastics that enter ecosystems as pollution are non-biodegradable. Describe the harmful effects of non-biodegradable plastics on both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Think about what happens when plastics remain in the environment for many years. Since they are non-biodegradable, they do not decompose easily and can accumulate in ecosystems. Over time, they break down into tiny particles called microplastics. Animals can become trapped or injured by plastic waste, and many mistakenly eat plastic, which can cause choking or block the digestive system. Plastics can also enter food chains and become concentrated in organisms at higher trophic levels. In addition, plastic waste may cover plants or habitats, blocking sunlight and reducing photosynthesis. If plastics are burned, they release toxic substances that pollute the environment. So the answer we write is, non-biodegradable plastics remain in the environment for a very long time and break down into microplastics. They can trap, suffocate or injure animals, and animals may eat the plastic, causing choking or blocked digestive systems. Plastics enter food chains and accumulate in top predators. They can also cover habitats or plants, blocking light and reducing photosynthesis. Burning plastics releases toxic substances into the environment. Now let's move on to another set of MCQs. We have another question. This question shows a food web for an ecosystem and asks, which group of organisms in an ecosystem is not shown in this food web? If you look carefully, the food web includes producers such as grass, herbivores like rabbits and field mice, and carnivores such as owls and moles. However, there are no organisms shown that break down dead organic matter. So, B is the correct answer because decomposers are not shown in the food web. The next question shows a graph of atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration from 1968 to 2000 and asks, every year there are variations in carbon dioxide concentration. What is the best explanation for these variations? Although the overall carbon dioxide concentration increases over time, there are small seasonal changes each year. During the summer months, plants carry out photosynthesis at a higher rate and remove more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. This causes the concentration to decrease temporarily before rising again. So, A is the correct answer because the increased rate of photosynthesis during summer reduces atmospheric carbon dioxide. We have another question. This question shows what happens to rain when it falls on forested land before and after houses are built. It asks, what is the difference in the percentage of surface runoff before and after building the houses? Before the houses were built, surface runoff was 10%. After construction, the remaining percentage of rainfall becomes surface runoff. Since 25% is lost through transpiration and 32% becomes groundwater, the surface runoff is 43%. This means the runoff has increased from 10% to 43%, an increase of 33%. So, A is the correct answer. The final question shows the oxygen concentration in a river with a sewage outflow just after Station 1. It asks, at which stations are the concentrations of organic matter lowest? Organic matter is lowest where the water is cleanest. At Station 1, the sewage has not yet entered the river, so the water is still clean. By Station 5, most of the organic matter has been decomposed and the river has largely recovered. So, A is the correct answer because the concentrations of organic matter are lowest at Stations 1 and 5. Now let's move on to another set of MCQs. We have another question. This question describes a food chain in the African grasslands involving elephants, ticks, oxpeckers, and goshawks. It asks, which pyramid of numbers represents this food chain? Since one large elephant can support many ticks, the number of parasites is much greater than the number of herbivores. The number of oxpeckers feeding on the ticks is smaller, and the number of goshawks is even smaller. Therefore, the correct pyramid is the one that reflects these changes in population size. So, C is the correct answer. The last question asks, which process is involved in the conversion of ammonia to nitrates? In the nitrogen cycle, ammonia is converted into nitrites and then nitrates by nitrifying bacteria. This process is known as nitrification. So, C is the correct answer. So, with that, we have reached the end of our last past paper practice and also the final chapter of O-Level Biology 5090. If you've made it this far, you've already taken a big step towards your goal. Remember, success in biology doesn't come from memorizing everything at once. It comes from understanding the concepts, practicing consistently, and learning from your mistakes. Every past paper you solve and every question you revise brings you one step closer to achieving the grade you're aiming for. Whenever you feel the need to revise, you'll find the links to both the topical lectures and the topical past paper practice in the posts section. Make full use of them, revise regularly, and keep practicing until you feel confident. Thank you for being a part of O-Level Oasis. It has truly been a pleasure learning with you. Believe in yourself, stay consistent, and walk into your exam knowing that your hard work will pay off. I sincerely wish each and every one of you the very best in your O-Level examinations. Until we meet again, take care, keep learning, and never stop believing in your potential. Goodbye.